Apple is about to change the iPhone in a way we have not seen in years. And the biggest surprise is not the camera. It is not the chip. It is something far more fundamental, and it directly affects whether spending over $1,300 on the iPhone 18 Pro Max is actually a smart financial decision right now. Let's talk about what is actually happening. Every major leak and supply chain report pointing toward the iPhone 18 Pro Max is telling the same story. This is not a minor refresh. The changes coming this cycle touch the display, the chip architecture, the camera hardware, the AI engine, and the physical design all at once. That combination has not happened since the iPhone 12 generation. If you're sitting on an iPhone 13, 14, or even 15 Pro, this conversation is directly about your money. Expected starting price for the iPhone 18 Pro Max lands somewhere between $1,199 and $1,299. That is roughly in line with last year's pricing. But the real question is not what it costs. The question is what you are actually getting for that investment and whether the timing makes sense for your specific situation. Here is where things get very interesting. The display is getting a massive upgrade. Leaks and analyst reports point to a shift toward a true under-display Face ID system. That means the dynamic island, which Apple introduced just 2 generations ago, could disappear entirely. A completely clean, uninterrupted screen from edge to edge. That is not a cosmetic change. That is a structural shift in how you interact with your phone every single day. And paired with that, brightness levels are expected to push beyond 3,000 nits peak outdoor performance. For creators shooting reference content, photographers reviewing images in sunlight, or professionals working in high-glare environments, that improvement alone carries real-world value. But that is not the biggest change. The A20 Pro chip is what makes this generation genuinely different from anything Apple has shipped before. Built on TSMC's 2nd generation 3nm process, early performance projections suggest a CPU improvement of roughly 20 to 25% over the A18 Pro. But raw speed is almost irrelevant at this point for most tasks. What matters is what that chip does for battery life and on-device AI processing. Here is the number that actually matters to you. Battery life on the iPhone 18 Pro Max is expected to see its single largest improvement in 3 generations. Analysts are projecting 15 to 20% longer real-world screen-on time compared to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. If you currently get through a full day with about 20% remaining, you would finish that same day with closer to 35 to 38%. For frequent travelers, field professionals, and anyone who depends on their phone through long shoots or workdays, that gap is felt immediately. Most buyers looking at spec sheets are completely missing this detail. The neural processing capability in the A20 Pro is being designed specifically to run Apple Intelligence features locally, without cloud dependency. That means faster Siri responses, real-time transcription, on-device image editing, and AI-powered writing tools that work even when you have no signal. For professionals who work in areas with poor connectivity, architects on job sites, journalists in the field, photographers at remote shoots, this is the difference between a feature that works and one that is just a demo. Now let's talk about the camera system, because this is where Apple appears to be making its most aggressive competitive move against Samsung and Google. The primary sensor on the iPhone 18 Pro Max is expected to feature a larger pixel size, improved low-light architecture, and a new computational photography engine optimized for the A20 Pro. Video performance is being pushed toward 8K recording capability, a first for iPhone. For creators who have been watching Samsung's Galaxy S25 Ultra and Google's Pixel 9 Pro XL pull ahead in certain video scenarios, this shift is significant. And this is the part that almost nobody is talking about. The periscope telephoto system is expected to expand from 5x optical zoom to a range that supports up to 10x lossless zoom. That closes the gap with the Galaxy S25 Ultra's telephoto system in a meaningful way. For wildlife photographers, sports shooters, and event professionals, that is not a small step. That is a competitive leap. Here is where things get very interesting. For your buying decision. At $1,199 to $1,299, the iPhone 18 Pro Max sits at roughly the same price as the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. On paper, these two devices compete directly. But the ecosystem advantage Apple holds, particularly for users already in the Apple universe with a Mac, iPad, or Apple Watch, adds long-term value that pure specification comparisons cannot capture. Seamless handoff, AirDrop, iMessage integration, and now deeper AI connectivity across devices create a productivity layer that Samsung still cannot fully match. And the software support story matters enormously for long-term ownership value. Apple guarantees a minimum of 5 to 6 years of iOS updates. That means the iPhone 18 Pro Max purchased in fall 2025 will likely receive full software support through 2030 or 2031. When you calculate the cost of ownership over 6 years, you're looking at roughly $200 per year for a flagship premium experience. That math makes sense for any professional or creator who depends on their device daily. So who should actually buy this? And who should wait? If you're upgrading from an iPhone 13 or older, the decision is straightforward. The performance gap between the A15 chip in your current device and the A20 Pro is enormous. Camera, battery, display, and AI capability represent a 4-generation leap. Every dollar of that investment is justified. Buy it. If you're coming from an iPhone 14 or 14 Pro Max, you are in a strong upgrade position. The display overhaul, the battery improvement, the AI processing upgrade, and the telephoto leap all represent genuine daily use improvements. This upgrade makes financial sense. If you're on an iPhone 15 Pro Max, the decision is more nuanced. If the under-display Face ID rumor confirms and the battery improvement hits projections, this becomes a legitimate upgrade cycle even for 15 Pro Max users. But if you can wait until hands-on reviews confirm those improvements hold in real-world testing, wait for the first 2 weeks of launch coverage before committing. If you're on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, wait. There is no financial logic in a one-generation upgrade. The gap simply does not justify the cost. For gamers, the A20 Pro's GPU improvements and thermal performance upgrades make the 18 Pro Max the most capable mobile gaming device Apple has ever shipped. Console-quality experiences through Apple Arcade and third-party titles will feel noticeably different on this hardware. For content creators, the 8K video recording, expanded telephoto, and improved low-light primary sensor combine to make this a genuine professional production tool. Paired with a MacBook Pro or iPad Pro, your creative workflow becomes more connected and more capable than any previous iPhone generation has allowed. For casual users who primarily browse, message, and stream, the iPhone 18 Pro Max is significantly more than you need. The standard iPhone 18 or even a discounted iPhone 16 will serve you better at a fraction of the investment. The bottom line is this. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is shaping up to be the most meaningful Pro Max upgrade since the iPhone 12 era. For anyone on a 2-year or older device, the timing, the features, and the long-term value all align. And before you make your final call, there is one development still unfolding that could shift the entire competitive landscape between Apple and Samsung heading into 2026. We are covering that in detail next.